is a licensed medical professional specializing in cardiology who holds 2 doctorates, 2 masters, and a bachelor's. She is a voice for the movement through her podcast, Coffee Talk, and she doesn't mince words. Dr. Jane Ruby.
I thought this was a little box because I'm so short, and I would have been as tall as Anne if I could stand on it. But I'm going to shove it over a little bit. Ann Vandersteel is probably the nicest fighter I've ever met. Thank you to Jamie and Carolyn for the honor of speaking today, and thank you all for being here. And to the people watching the live stream, thank you also for being with us. We need you not to just, be an echo chamber in here. We need you all to be warriors when you leave here today. I got into this thing 5 years ago because I was concerned about babies and children and our military getting this poison. In 5 years, I've never lied, I've never compromised myself, and I've never misrepresented the medical truth. In 2021, I discovered the story of graphene oxide in some vials in a small Spanish group overseas. From the Moderna vials. In 2022, I broke the worldwide exclusive story of the embalmer clots being pulled out of dead people who were jabbed. I was connected to that embalmer by the Honorable Lieutenant Colonel Dr. Teresa Long, who is not here today. I've traveled all over the country for the last 5 years doing interviews and speeches. I've been ridiculed, like the rest of my colleagues here. I've been threatened, and as you know, I've been sued by the dishonorable Robert Malone. But I survived it because it was all fake. Today, I want to share with you a list of realities as a launching point for the solutions. Because if you don't see the problem, the real problem, you won't be looking in the right places for the solution. Amen? Everything I'm about to share with you has a paper trail of money, connections, interlocking directorates, dirty deals, and unholy alliances. And much of it is in the work that I've put out over the last 5 years. Everything about COVID was a lie. Everything. There was no pandemic. There was gain-of-function shenanigans, but the real bioweapon were those shots and what's being sprayed in the air and what's been allowed to be in our food and water. This was a transfer of wealth from Main Street to Wall Street. And I hate to tell you this, but Operation Warp Speed was never dismantled. It is to this day an ongoing active government program. I want to read you something that I posted on social media. The mRNA shots are not vaccines. Stop calling them that. They're bioweapons. They're poison. They're intentional poisons. They do not prevent anything because they're not therapeutic. They are military-grade weapons. I'm going to say that again. They are military-grade weapons. They are designed and only designed to maim and murder people. The PCR test is a fraud. There is no, I'm a 20-year researcher. I've written hundreds of protocols. I know my stuff. There is no validated test on the planet that can diagnose a flu or differentiate one flu from another. How can they do this to us, Dr. Jane? I'm asked all the time. It turns out they've been doing it for about 100 years, maybe longer. If you've read the work of Catherine Watt, I suggest you do if you haven't. It's a Substack called Bailiwick News. It's entitled, her opus work is called The American Domestic Bioterrorism Program. And the secondary title is Building the Case. And I want you to listen to this very, very carefully. building the case to prosecute members of Congress, presidents, HHS and DOD secretaries, federal judges for treason under 18 U.S.C. 2381, which is active treason to murder the citizenry. A wise old state Supreme Court justice once said to me, when I asked that question, he said, "It's money and power, Jane, but mostly it's power." If you want to use military terms, you are all in a kill box. Thank you, Todd Callender, for resurrecting that term. This kill box, it's a military operation. It spans the entire geography of the world, and the duration of the campaign, Catherine found out, is permanent. They're not going to stop. You're in a kill box under a military operation and a medical martial law to murder as many people as possible. So if you don't think that this is an existential crisis that requires you to leave here today and start doing things differently, I don't know what else will convince you of that. It's disguised as public health. It's disguised as medicine. Medicines are toxic poisons, but in particular, these particular shots. They want to kill as many people as possible. Babies, grandparents, fetuses, young, healthy teenagers. No one is left out. Why are the elderly targeted? I'll give you a clue. Social Security. You can save a lot of money by killing people, and don't think that's not part of it. The pharmaceutical companies, you need to understand, and the government are really one entity. It's one operation, and it's way beyond RICO crimes. It's beyond public-private partnerships. This is the most unholy of all alliances, and it's got to be broken up. The pharmaceutical industry, in which I spent 20 years of my 50-year career, is a tool of the DOD. And public health, right now in the United States, is a military operation. And it's not for your health. I had the honor today of meeting Brooke Jackson. For those of you who don't know this hero, she went up against Pfizer in just a landmark case. Unfortunately, it was dismissed. In their motion to dismiss, Pfizer argued, we weren't making a pharmaceutical product that required long-term safety and efficacy. They held it up. We were making a military prototype, Judge. We didn't have to do it by contract. Well, to those of you 2 or 3 years ago who said, oh, she's full of it. She's a whack. It's not a military operation. Well, they just admitted it. And here's the best part. And I know you feel this with me, Brooke. And guess who submitted a supportive brief on behalf to stand with Pfizer? Anybody know? Want to throw it out? Don't say if you know, because Ann, you know everything from me. The United States government. The United States government didn't stand with the COVID vaccine injured. The United States government didn't stand with the grandmothers and grandfathers who died in those cold, dark rooms in hospitals. The United States government didn't stand with babies who had their first heart attack at 1 year. The government didn't stand with the millions of Americans who are now permanently maimed and injured. The government stood with Pfizer. Don't ever forget that. So what I'm saying to you is kind of the unthinkable. If you've ever seen that thriller film in the 60s called When a Stranger Calls, anybody in here old enough to remember a movie from the 60s besides me? So the cops are trying to trace a call all day of a killer, And finally they figure it out and they call the victim inside the house. They go, get out, the killer's calling from inside the house. Our killer is inside the house. And that's why nothing's changing. The mRNA poison, in spite of all the theatrics, is still in the childhood, and I agree with Dr. Tenpenny, poison schedule. And now, I want to warn you, it's in seasonal flu shots. And that's just what we know. Why is it so hard to get Congress to act to stop this? Well, let me give you a few facts about your Congress. They exempted themselves from the shots. Did you know that? And there are 3,000 staffers. Supposed to be a really scary, dangerous flu, right? And 800,000 foreign exchange students. And, as my dear friend Ann Vandersteel will attest to, with her partner in Operation Burning Edge, Michael Yan, and every illegal alien who crossed our border. These scumbags, she said it's truth, so it's truth. Could I have the next slide for the rest of this? She said it's the truth. So these scumbags have held hearings on Capitol Hill. Has anybody seen anything come out of it? Shelley, did they call you? Did they do anything differently? Brooke? No. Nothing comes out of it except their next re-election campaign fundraising. While they're making money, MTG, Rand Paul, on their pharmaceutical stocks. You might say, well, Dr. Jane, we all have a mutual fund. I don't own Gilead Sciences like MTG does that makes remdesivir that's killing Americans every day. I'm angry. You bet your ass I'm angry. These scumbags need to be removed from office. The entire Congress needs an overhaul. And I don't know how that happens without a lot of people dying, but if you got any suggestions, hit me up. Some of them, like your new vice president, sorry, got to tell the truth, owns factories right now that are making not just mRNA, but the new one, the self-amplifying one. If you go to the gas station and you pump 10 gallons in, and you wake up the next morning and you say to your spouse, honey, I got 20 gallons in there. How did that happen? That's how the self-amplifying works. It multiplies itself in terms of dose. That's even before it starts forcing the body to make proteins. Well, J.D. Vance with Vivek Ramaswamy have factories making the self-amplifying mRNA. You might as well know it, because we've got to do something about it. J.D. Vance and Vivek Ramaswamy and his brother Shankar Ramaswamy and Mommy Ramaswamy's in on it too. You're welcome. Todd taught me to be courageous in this thing. Okay. Congress takes billions of dollars a year in legalized bribes from pharma lobbyists. The lobby situation's got to be stopped. Do you really think these people are going to do anything about the COVID shot injuries? We call them bioweapons because they're made by the military. Elected and appointed government officials are not the answer right now. Not saying ever, but not right now. If you don't see the real problem, you won't find the right solution. I'm going to keep harping that because people say, well, but we're doing this thing over here with, Congressman Smith. Yeah, Congressman Smith. They have hearings. They talk. They don't do anything. And Ann made reference to the Florida geoengineering ban. And I got excited when that thing started. But here's how I know every state and every state legislator is either a real dummy, if they don't know this, or they're part of it. Because the people of Tennessee, when I started getting vocal about geoengineering weather crimes, the people of Tennessee started writing to me and saying, we had a ban a year ago. They're spraying us twice as much as ever. Why is that? Figure it out. Figure it out. The Florida state weather modification ban and all state geoengineering bans are meaningless without removing the exemptions clause in 50 U.S.C. subsection 1520 and 1521. And part of that was repealed. So you had these ankle biters coming around going, it was repealed, your point's not. Well, there are 12 other codes that allow the federal government, you can create all the bills and the bans you want, state by state, until you do something, and it's fueled, like Ann said rightfully, by the PrEP Act. The PrEP Act is the license to murder across hospitals, across the spraying, across this Congress. The PrEP Act, you should know, was set to expire in 2025. But in the last gasping breath of the Biden administration, they extended it to 2029. But before you all go like, oh, Biden, boo. Yeah, Biden, boo, bye. It has been maintained for the last 7 months under the Trump administration. And you're talking to somebody who worked on his campaign, worked in his administration, loved the guy. Something's wrong. Okay, as I wrap up, let's talk about the issue of solutions. As I said in the beginning, if you don't see the real problem, you're not going to find the right solution. So, your first step is to open your eyes and be ready to accept the fact that some people on the front lines that you believed in and loved either are or always have been part of the operation. Don't fall in love with people. Fall in love with your God, your country. Stay true to those values, and you won't get steered wrong, because this is an information war. It's not tanks and guns anymore. The goal, in my opinion, is to separate yourself right now from the grid, from big pharma, big government. You've got to start forming, it always goes back to local power. Find like a kindred spirits in your family. Find them in your neighborhood. Find them in your communities, and start discussing resource sharing, parallel services, things like that. I'm not talking, you don't have to go in the hills of North Carolina and live in a hut, okay? But you've got to have a plan. And you want your neighbors healthy, share your information, because you want your neighbors healthy and ready to fight alongside of you. My point is, because rarely does anyone ever write to me in my social media and say, what can I do, Dr. Jane? What can you and I do together? I get, well, you're always telling us about these problems, but you don't give any solutions. Well, that's 12 hours a day. Maybe I could eke out another hour a day. How about if we all get together and we have the mastermind theory, and we come up with thousands of solutions together? My point is, no one is coming to save you, to correct it, to bring justice to it. There are no white hats. The white hat is in the mirror. Your white hat is in the mirror. There's no 40D chess and all that other stuff. It's down to starting from where you are and form your alliances, your parallel systems. I post this probably 100 times a day, and I'll keep posting it, because they can come up with all the Fruit Loops and all the visits and selfies in each other's offices. But babies died today. There are babies in this country that died today. Somebody lost a grandfather because of this filthy poison. That committee could have ended it if they had a half a testicle to their name. Excuse me for the visual, sorry. That committee could have ended it. They would have been fired, but they sure would have ended it, because they would have woken up the entire nation. Instead, they'll go down like their leader. And I'm sorry, but I don't lie. Kennedy, who has lied. They'll go down as cowards and people who contributed to the mass murder and the crimes against humanity. It's as simple as that. I choose to stand with what God asked me to do. and I will take the heat for it. I've already taken a lot. And I appreciate all of you for your great support and your love along the way. I know I speak for all of my fellow warriors in here and the other docs. It goes a long way. We just can't tell you all every day. So thank you so much. Jamie, thank you.
All three of our kids participated in the Pfizer vaccine trial.
5 days later, she said they were running across the court. Junior just collapsed.
She screamed, "Mom, Mom, my heart, my heart, my heart feels like it's being ripped through my neck." Like screaming, crying.
She had a 5-minute seizure 2 hours after the vaccine. And then 2 hours after that, she had another 5-minute seizure.
I was quadriplegic for close to 2 months.
Within days, I was horrifically ill.
She would black out. Yeah, go into these rages. It's like I'm not there, someone else is there.
Hey, listen. One of her friends told us that she had gotten the COVID vaccine because we had no idea.
She's in a wheelchair. She can't feel from the waist down. She has an NG tube. She can't eat. She can't swallow.
We had a nurse laugh at us. We had a doctor laugh at us.
Let's call vaccine hesitancy what it really is: willful stupidity.
With those statistics, that if they're accurate, they constitute a signal that there could be a problem with these vaccines.
No.
Okay, and why is that?
I think it's more complicated than
If they don't produce results that sell the vaccine or the drug, that sponsor's not coming back.
An 18-year-old healthy daughter, there was nothing wrong with her. She had no comorbidities. She had nothing wrong with her. And she's just gonna die.
They'll block me on Facebook all the time. Twitter, knock me off.
Big tech is basically harassing and intimidating the victim, basically medically gaslighting them by denying the validity of their injuries.
I didn't know about any of this until I was a person in it. I had no idea how bad this was.
It took nothing to be presumed positive for COVID.
Yeah.
But it takes everything to be presumed positive for a vaccine injury.
my kids were healthy. They just wanted their lives back.
This may be the most profound scandal in human history.
This was the answer. This would have halted the pandemic.
I have lost trust in humanity, in my government, in my agencies. Trust is very hard to get back.
Something is going very wrong in this world.
The pharmacists were denying the treatment, which to me is outrageous.
Our generation let this happen. We don't know what to do.